by sort of 2025, they estimate that 2/3 of the world will face water shortages. Why can't we create a solution and really tap into what nature and evolution has been achieving for 3.8 billion years? A lot of great innovations often get stuck in academia because they can't bridge the gap to commercialisation. Right. It's really important that it should be a viable option for people coming out of sixth form or coming out of university to actually think, hang on a second, I don't necessarily have to join a company, I could make my own company.
Morning, Jonathan.
Morning, Beth.
It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
It's my pleasure. When we met about 6 months ago, your technology and what you've developed is one of the most captivating, creative technologies that I've run across, and I've run across many different companies and in the last 6.5 years that I've been here in Europe. I'm really interested to hear the story of how you got your idea and where you are right now with the business, and just to hear how it developed and what you want to sort of create with your business. And so everyone, this is Jonathan Risley. He's the CEO of ThinAir. Take it away.
Yeah, so we're a startup from Imperial College, and we're creating a new source of water. So by harnessing the water that's in the Earth's atmosphere to condense it down and provide clean drinking water for people who don't have it.
The thing that I found really interesting about what you're doing is how you got your original idea. So why don't you describe that a little bit?
So we came up with the idea about 1.5 years ago, and really it was because obviously the world's water crisis is such a big issue. We need to have this new source or maybe a new approach to it, because currently we're not able to solve the crisis, and obviously the more and more people are facing water scarcity and not having enough clean drinking water. So we were thinking, how can we approach this from an innovative and a new sort of standpoint, really? And we came across the African fogstand beetle. This beetle lives in the Namib Desert, so over in Namibia, and in the really dry environment of the desert, the beetle is able to survive by condensing water directly from the air.
But what do you mean condensing it directly from the air? How does it? What happens?
So what happens is the beetle in the morning, it would bury itself into the sand, so it would get cold because if you go underground, it's colder than it is above ground. And then afterwards, the beetle would then crawl up to the top of the dunes, and the morning air would sort of pass over it. And this air would be at a higher temperature than what the beetle is. Then due to the special surface structure and chemistry that the beetle has, it's then able to rapidly condense water. So it really, water droplets that's present in the air are able to form onto its shell. And then the beetle then leans forward, and all these water molecules cascade off into its mouth, and that's how it sort of drinks in what is a really dry environment. So we thought, well, if that beetle can do it, then why can't we create a solution that is similar for humans and really tap into what nature and evolution has been achieving for 3.8 billion years.
So, but the beetle, how did you find this beetle? I mean, there are lots, there's lots of different insects out there. So how did you discover it?
So that's a really good question. So in terms of so I did biotechnology as my degree. So I've got a little bit of sort of biology in there, and this all sort of links into biomimicry. So for us, it was reading through the literature and seeing what sort of other research has been done out there, and we therefore came across the beetle. But what tied in perfectly was when we'd started ThinAir a couple of months in. David Attenborough on the Planet Earth TV show did a fantastic documentary, and he highlighted this beetle.
Oh,
so
that's
amazing. All of the footage
was
recorded for us, and yeah, David Attenborough did a great job at really sort of highlighting the struggles that this beetle goes through, not only to condense the water, but then immediately after, he often gets eaten by a lizard that is sort of sitting in wait.
Wait, slow down. He often gets eaten by a lizard?
Yeah, so it's quite a funny episode in the sense that the whole time you see the struggle that this beetle goes through to get water, but then you have this lizard who isn't able to condense water himself, but instead he just eats the hydrated beetle because it's got all the water on it.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
you get to see the whole food chain
Yeah.
in action.
Yeah. So that was a couple months after you started the company, and was your original idea about creating or getting water from thin air?
So I think in terms of the way we initially approached it was quite novel in the sense that a lot of people come up with potentially a solution, and then they look to form the team or bring the team around it. Whereas we more or less sort of formed a team and were like, right, let's actually come up with a solution for one of these big problems. So we were looking at sort of the three main problems that humanity faces. So that's clean drinking water, obviously, but also energy demands. So as we have this growing population, we're going to need more energy to be able to meet this. The whole increase in population, but as well as the fact that you've got urbanisation and population density, and then also finally food, because the more people that are on this earth, the more challenging it then becomes to be able to provide food for them. So those were the sort of the three areas which we really looked to innovate around, and it was a case of thinking what are our expertise and how can we best bring it to try and solve a problem that actually has an impact.
And so when you saw the Beetle and the David Attenborough program, the team said, that's it, Eureka, we found it, right?
Precisely. So it all sort of came together, and it was the perfect moment that we're thinking, yeah, we've got the biology experience, we've got the biotechnology experience, we've also got materials engineers. So it's bringing together our skill set from Imperial to be able to actually create a surface which replicates what this beetle is able to achieve.
So this was a team of students at Imperial College, right? And
Yeah.
So they're all just university graduates now. How long have you had your business now?
So we've been running since October 2016. So
While you were still at school?
yeah, so we were undergraduates at the time, and we've now obviously passed through our undergraduates, and some of us have done masters as well. So now everyone's sort of fully on board, and we've got a sort of full working team. And we've also brought some other team members on along the way.
So how many people are on the team now?
So at the moment we've got a fantastically large team, because we've got quite a few sort of students helping us over the summer as well from different universities. But so that's 9 in total. But in terms of the core team for next year, we've got 4 of us.
How much funding have you gotten? You've gotten grants, et cetera, to start the company up. You say, we've got the team growing. You're growing it from Imperial College in London, right? And so you've got four people that are sort of, are you full-time?
Yeah, so as of sort of the summer, we now have 4 people who are full-time. So that includes a new MBA student who's just come on board, Ben. So he's come on board as the CFO after doing his MBA at Imperial. Then you've got me and Sam, who did biotechnology, and then Sam also did a business masters at Imperial. Then you've got Max, who did materials engineering.
So where are you now with the business, and what were some of the challenges of getting to this point?
So I think some of the challenges that we face is, as your previous question sort of said about sort of the finances and how you get going. So for us, it was it made logical sense to enter a few competitions to really try and gain some traction and to really sort of validate our business idea. So we entered a couple of competitions, mainly based at Imperial, and then a few others around London. So we entered 10 in total and had success in all of them, which was really handy to develop the initial funds that we needed to begin the research. So that was an initial challenge I think that a lot of startups face, is having the finances to actually start something. And secondly, with such a sort of a scientifically orientated project, it's always hard to translate sort of science practice into actual theory into practice into reality, really.
Yeah, to commercialize it.
Yeah, precisely. So that's the difference, in the sense that a lot of great innovations often get stuck in academia because they maybe can't bridge the gap to commercialization.
Right.
So,
and what made the difference for you to be able to do that, number one? And this next thing I'd like you to just describe is basically how does it work? So we know it came from the beetle, but we are not really clear yet about what it is you've actually created. But first tell me how you address the challenge of shifting to be able to market what you're doing.
So I think in terms of the way in which we've been able to do it is sort of hard work in the labs. It's really made a difference moving into our own labs over at Imperial's White City campus. So having the ability to do our own research and actually pioneer that element of working out how water condenses and what's the best surface to enable this. And that sort of ties in with what our actual product is. So what it is, it's a surface that takes these principles from the beetle. So the specific surface structure and the specific surface chemistry. So those two principles which enhance water condensation, so that when you put this material in different environments, it's able to condense the water from the atmosphere and provide clean drinking water. So at the moment we're integrating it within something called a water generation machine. So these machines are able to be placed at different locations around the world and provide clean drinking water.
What are the conditions you need to actually extract the water from the air?
So the great thing is about 93% of the Earth has a high enough humidity to be able to condense water. So the higher the humidity, the higher the temperature, the more water is actually held in by the air. But I think in terms of even in sort of dry locations, our technology can work about right down to 40% relative humidity.
And 93% of the Earth has that 40% relative humidity at least?
Yes, at least.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So what's sort of the most important thing that you've sort of learned along the way that you think other people that are starting their business should know? I know that we met as part of the EIT Climate KIC Accelerator that's connected to Imperial College, right, with Andrew Burford. And so you were part of that accelerator. Did that make a difference to you, or what's sort of the advice you'd be giving to someone?
Yeah, so I think in the Climate KIC Accelerator has been incredibly useful for us, not only for the advice from Andrew and from yourself along the way, but also it was a great opportunity for some more grant funding. I think for us, what's been really valuable and one of the big lessons is don't underestimate how important your sort of network is. So we've been able to, as we've gone on through different competitions, meet obviously a lot of investors, but also people who are just happy to help a good cause on the way. So it's great to be able to call upon our network, and they're able to help us find connections, find different market opportunities. So for us, that's made our journey much easier, having these people who can open doors for us.
Right. And what sort of doors have been opened for you?
That's a very good question. So I think in terms of exploring different markets, so we've got some fantastic connections with charities over in Africa, and we're now starting to speak to individuals over in the Middle East as well. And sort of all of these markets are ones which not necessarily we had connections in previously, but through developing this network and sort of sharing our idea and our ambition and our product, we've been able to, people have thought, yes, I can actually help them on the way, and here's the connection to do that. So hopefully it enables us to an easier route to market.
And you've got your prototype done. You're in production for your product of creating this. It's a membrane, right? Mm-hmm. It's a membrane that you can attach to anything, right?
Yeah. So it's the surface principles. So you've got this membrane, but we've now integrated that onto a metal surface. So with this aluminium sheet, you've got much more longevity associated with it. So therefore, it's much more robust and can be deployed in different environments. Over the summer, we're now doing live demonstrations of it in the UK, but then also over in Malaysia as part of the XPrize water abundance competition. So
what was your sort of role in the XPrize? Like, how many people do they consider, and where were you in the sort of the final?
Yeah, so the XPrize is a great competition that they have many different disciplines.
So what's the name of this particular XPrize competition?
The XPrize Water Abundance.
Water Abundance.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the principle of it is perfectly aligned with what we're doing. So it's all about atmospheric water generation, and really it's been able to create this new source of water as we've been talking about. So initially 100 teams entered the competition, and based on the initial phase 1 results, so you had to just submit results on how your technology is performing and all the principles of how you're going to be getting this water from the air. And that was over in January, and then they selected the 5 teams and announced them in March. And we were one of the lucky 5 teams to get through to the final, where we're now able to demonstrate it on this global platform.
And when are you going to be doing that?
So the demonstration date we have is the 1st of October.
That's exciting.
Yeah, precisely. So we'll be able to we'll be able to go out to Malaysia and actually demonstrate it in sort of perfect environmental conditions as well.
Right. And your team you're a super young team, right?
Yeah. So
how has that worked for you or against you? It doesn't sound like it's worked against you at all.
So I think, so for us, it hasn't, I don't feel it's ever worked against us in the sense that, but because we're young, we're able to move fast, we're learning as we go. And I think also the fact that we don't have any previous experience of this, but I think by doing it for the first time and maybe not having that inhibition, because we don't have a reputation which we have to try and maintain. We're just trying to develop the brand and just improve upon every sort of step we take as we go. So I think being young in some senses has really helped us.
Yeah, it's like you don't know what you don't know, and you can be more fearless because you don't have preconceived idea about thinking this isn't going to work, etc. So there's no sort of limits. You can just go for it, right?
Precisely, go for it.
So tell me a little bit about what was happening at the time when we first met, when I was doing the pitch coaching for the group of teams. So in your business.
Yeah, so that was back in March. So I think we just moved into our labs over in White City, and at the time it was still very much trying to develop the first lab proof of concept, and also it was really developing our story and how we tell our story. So that's where you came in brilliantly and able to helping us sort of tell that story and really sort of hope captivate people so we can get bring people in with what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and how did our work together challenge any assumptions you had about pitching? Like, what did you think it was going to be when you came in versus when you left?
So I think having as soon as I sort of heard about this pitching opportunity, I think we've had previous experience and people have tried to sort of help us on the way, and obviously I'd had a little bit of experience pitching in different competitions, so maybe I was a little bit skeptical in terms of what else can I learn. Like, I think pitching is surely I've learned everything by now, but I think it really sort of opened my eyes in the sense that they're getting this whole new perspective. It sort of reinvigorated my passion and the fact that you need to be able to really convey that to somebody. I think you can easily get complacent if you've told your story over and over again. It seems like you're always telling the same story, but for the person who hasn't heard it previously,
right, you
need to come in with that same passion every time. So
right.
I think your pitch session was really useful in trying to bring that out again.
Yeah, it's true. When you have to repeat it time after time, it can get to sound sort of rote and almost canned, and you have to be able to connect your head and your heart together each time so that it comes from your heart, so that people see that you have the passion, and you did that beautifully. It'd be great if you could just give me some idea how, if I challenged any of your assumptions about pitching and what pitching is and possibilities for getting different results.
I think in terms of for us, you definitely did sort of challenge my assumptions, and how I think it was a case of just becoming so much more comfortable in sort of trying to translate what is potentially quite a tough sort of scientific area to try and convey that to the general public, and trying to make it so that even anybody can really understand it and buy into the idea. So breaking it down into simple steps is what we did, and you sort of emphasise, right, that's the key point there. Really emphasise that bit. That's too much detail in the sense that you're losing people. It's too much jargon. So I think simplifying it down was a key step that we sort of did in that process, and really making it so that anybody can, in a short amount of time, understand the severity of the world's water crisis, to what the current problems are and how we are solving it differently.
So how severe are the current water problems?
So yeah, it's a huge issue. So you've got 844 million people who currently lack access to clean drinking water, but by sort of 2025, they estimate that 2/3 of the world will face water shortages.
In 7 years.
Yeah, in 7 years, in just a short amount of time, due to climate change, sort of expanding population, further contamination of groundwater and things like that. The problem is just going to get even more severe.
And your solution, what sort of percentage of the problem do you think you could potentially address?
That's a really good question. So I think in terms of the answer will come from multiple technologies coming together, and not one solution is going to be able to provide the whole answer. So we need to be able to provide not only our source of water from the atmosphere, but develop better filtration technologies, better ways of harnessing the water from rainwater and things like that. So I think it'll be great if our solution can have a small percentage impact on this global problem. So, but because we're working with such large numbers, just a small percentage means millions upon millions of people.
Right, and from what I understand about your technology, the membranes can be attached to anything, a greenhouse, a regular home, a camping, a tent, the side of a tent. Behind you, I saw behind a solar panel array of solar panels, so that the water can then be collected and then go over to sort of irrigate sort of gardens nearby or something, or crops nearby. And the thing that I'm interested in hearing is sort of the quantity of water that you can get. So my initial impression was that the amount of water you could get would just be enough for like one person or a couple people, a little bit of water. But actually, how much water can you actually extract from the atmosphere with these membranes?
Yeah, so in terms of those technologies, they're sort of the passive technologies which has the potential to be developed. So those ones don't rely on any energy input, so they're just providing just that favourable surface for water to collect on them. So in terms of the quantity, there'll be much lower quantities than, say, if you were to put energy into the system. But hopefully something like if you were to put it on a billboard, which put the membrane on there, you could be able to achieve hopefully about 70 litres per day.
And 70 litres would be enough water for how many people per day?
Precisely. So I think in terms of having enough water for a whole family or a very small community within that setting. But some of the products which we're looking to develop at the moment is ones where you've got sort of integrated solar panels and integrated clean energy sources. And one of the requirements of the XPrize competition is to produce 2,000 litres per day. So such much larger quantities of water are able to provide for much more. Many more people, in the sense that if the UN states that we need about 7 litres per day as a global requirement.
7 or 70?
7. So 7 litres is what you need just for your drinking and
per person.
And your food. Yeah.
7 litres per day per person is what the UN says.
Yeah.
And the XPrize is asking you to provide 2,000 litres per day?
Mm-hmm.
And can you do that?
Yeah, precisely. So I think we definitely can achieve this. So our results in the lab show that we can have that sort of 4 times increase in water generation efficiency, and now it's a case of really proving that once integrated into a air-to-water machine. I
remember a couple of days when we were working together, you had to leave because you were going to 10 Downing Street. So tell me what happened.
That's a very good memory. So we had the fantastic opportunity to go to 10 Downing Street. So that was an opportunity provided by the Enterprise Nation. So we initially entered their competition and won Student Startup of the Year, and
for Enterprise Nation, for all of the UK?
Yeah, so it was a sort of a national competition. So I was lucky enough to be on the judging panel this year of it.
Because you won last year.
So because we won last year. But they provided a fantastic opportunity to meet the business advisor of Theresa May and really sort of speak about how students can try and get a voice and try to go into entrepreneurship. And I think it's really important that it should be a viable option for people coming out of sixth form or coming out of university to actually think, hang on a second, I don't necessarily have to join a company, I could make my own company, and there's plenty of opportunities there at the moment for funding for this, and it's just raising awareness that this can be a job opportunity as well.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
So next, it's a really exciting couple of months coming up, really. So one, we've got this XPrize demonstration over in Malaysia, but two, I've been invited to the World Economic Forum over in China.
Wow, that's wonderful. Congratulations.
As part of Imperial's got a few tickets available, so they sort of selected us, and we'll be able to have an opportunity to meet some of their Chinese partners. As well as we're into the final of the Tommy Hilfiger challenge, which is all about how to reduce water within their supply chain and within the textile industry. So there's a perfect alignment there. So yeah, we have a few opportunities coming up.
It sounds wonderful.
I think the great thing about having a startup is that every day is different. Every week you've got different opportunities arising. It's just such an exciting time.
Yeah, and what about your funding? What you've got? Do you have enough for a runway for the next year or so, or what do you need?
So in terms of our next steps, it's definitely finances, and raising a round is definitely on the horizon as well. It's really off the back of this demonstration, because I think having proved it, that sort of de-risks the company in a lot of senses, and hopefully makes it viable that, look, we've got this technology, we're ready to scale it, we just need that extra influx of money to be able to achieve that.
That sounds wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jonathan. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you very much, Beth.
And I wish you well with everything.